I've since learned to look beyond the banners and the politics, to see people as individuals with their own hopes and dreams. As for my dream of building a better world, well, every day I'm reminded that it is far more complex than I had ever imagined.
Irreconcilable differences, when coexistence isn't an option. It's easy for learned elites to criticize earnest efforts and assert their moral superiority, all without offering alternatives.
But it only spurs me onward, to find the wisdom and the strength to see it through to the very end.
God's willing, there will come a day when we can finally lay down our arms, and there will be peace.
I pray I am up to the task.
I'll be there to catch you.
Thank you, Alice.
Welcome to another video. It's been a dramatic and exhausting time for our community, stirring anger, discontent, but also passion, in which I want to offer some final words and a conclusion that all Final Fantasy XIV players, and those that might become one in the future, can reach consensus and harmony again. Yes, we talked about many furious topics lately. Job changes serving as possible indications for a direction of the game in which the developers are leading it against the interest of some players. Or the whole modding topic, where you can easily find good and bad arguments for either side without being totally unreasonable. Or even when defending a dumb argument, but one that defines your own decisions and opinions, even dumbness becomes relevant at that point. Then we had this super over-exaggerated Asmongold video, where I basically wanted to point out how much fanatism can lead to passive-aggressive reactions and behavior, and that it might be bad for all people taking part in it. However, I could also look much further back into the whole gatekeeping topics that someone like Lynx Kameli talked about, or people are obsessed with Final Fantasy XIV story and plot development. And yes, I will tell you again, that sometimes it is a necessary element for content creators to hop on drama trains, simply to make their living from it. Nonetheless, there's an essential aspect we should never forget about. Anyone with a humble interest in a game that we all love should be granted the right to be heard. But remember, this doesn't have to define your own perspective onto something, regardless of standing for or against your own opinion. Your world and enjoyment should not be affected by whatever can take it down in the eyes of others. Just as an example, some days ago my wife and I started rewatching Attack on Titan again from the start, until we caught up with the events on the final season. And just after the first 3 episodes, I remembered why this show is my absolute favorite anime of all times. So much that regardless of how it's going to end, it will stay in my heart and my memories forever and is carved into my brain as a big emotional part of my life. But now to the point, does that automatically mean you should feel the same? Or that someone's criticism is not worth to be heard? Definitely not. And of course, I could feel personally attacked as well when someone hates this show, as it represents many of my personal ideas and how I perceive the world and how we are a part of it. But this is exactly what happens to a lot of Final Fantasy XIV players. The story and plot is taking you in, and especially by being embedded in this MMO environment, this immersion is easily accelerated and amplified, which basically breaches the 4th barrier for many players, me included. But the same logic can be applied here as well. Just because you like it doesn't automatically render opinions of others worthless when they disagree with your opinion. Our self-reflection and how we perceive the world is always subject to personal perspective, and even science is not totally invulnerable to human subjectivity. So let me tell you one thing. Even if we tend to outrage easily, especially if we want to defend those things that can reach our hearts, this emotional connection does not need your protection. These are your ties and only you can cut them. Nobody could ever convince me that Attack on Titan is not a good show, as I just fell in love with it the first time I watched its first season. And the same goes for Final Fantasy XIV. But like I said, these are personal opinions and other people are allowed, yet even invited, to disagree. As we are living in a world where freedom is one of the greatest values that our civilization has achieved. And even though we might seek refuge in video games to make us forget about our real problems or imperfections, there's one thing we should never leave back on the road, which is freedom. And some people might not know it yet, but this freedom can only be guaranteed when your own is not hurting that of other people. So always put in a reasonable pinch of respect, politeness and empathy for those around you. Discussion is the only way to actually learn about what other people think. And if it's always accompanied with bad language or disrespect, it will never lead to consensus and splits different perspectives apart even further. So instead of trying to aggressively defend your position, try to make it clear instead. while offering some more sympathy for your counterpart. Maybe your divergence actually has more intersection than both parties believe. So please, whatever topic we're talking about, and of course, I will cover as many topics in and around Final Fantasy, as this is my form of realizing my act of freedom, I would be happy when that discourse is held within a respectful space for all participants. Yes, content creators are leaning towards extreme ends of certain topics very frequently, but at least for my content, I will always try to be respectful. And to make this particular thing clear once and for all, when anyone refers to the great community, by the way, which points out to a toxic fraction of the Final Fantasy XIV player base, this is just a very small portion of our community. Beyond these loud and aggressive social media mob, especially when playing the game, you will find way more helpful and friendly people that you can have tons of fun with and which sometimes plant the fruit for great friendships or even romantic relationships. So, instead of putting our focus on bad apples, yes, we content creators included, let us embrace the hope for a good community that this game was known for nearly a whole decade. And together, even if we might have different opinions, share the love for this game. As it's not without a good reason why we gave our hearts for it in the same way the developers do. At least according to their reputation and my hope in the real great community we are part of. So let us lay down our weapons in the form of hate speech, abuse or disrespect to other people, and instead rise to the challenge to better understand different perspectives, so that we can find joy in the game that became a second home for many of us. And when I learned one thing from Attack on Titan, walls will not make your life better. So give your hearts and keep loving Final Fantasy.